I'll just mention about Prakash. He is the recipient of Katha Award. I will not tell you, elaborate on his style or his class of his works, because as you know, Katha people are the connoisseurs of literature. They choose the world-class stories only for the Katha Prize series, and his story was selected for that. Now I would request him to read that story. In fact, would you like to say something about the story? Or? Yes. Okay, you prefers to speak afterwards. So let's Jose read out the story, and then Prakash will narrate his experience.
I'll read out the excerpts of the story. This is about a village in Satari where a couple of women go out to collect firewood, and the experience that they have in the woods, the forest. Germain village lies at the foot of a hill whose peak, which stands tall and erect like a pole thrust into the sky, is called Ubote, or the Softy Summit. From Ubote, layers of hills undulate into the distance. The temple of Santeri stands in a clearing on the other side of a stream that springs from the peak. Beyond that are the paddy fields that stretch into the distance. The villagers build dams of this stream when they need water in the month of May. During the rain, the stream gushes forth, splitting the village in two, ranging the 40-50 houses on either side of it. Every afternoon as the sun begins to set, the first long shadow of Ubote falls on the village. And now these two women, Yamuni and Chandre, they are setting out to collect firewood into the forest. Yamuni and Chandre had already gathered half the firewood they would need. And this year their wood was of very good quality too. The women of the village looked enviously at the loads they brought in. Where do you get such good wood? Apole asked Chandre one day. Why? There's so much wood lying about in the forest. If you want, you can come too, Chandre said generously. The forest was on the slopes of Ubote. The other women didn't go there. Their legs would begin to tremble at the thought of climbing down the steep slope with a heavy load on their heads. And if by chance you missed your step, you and your load would tumble headlong into the valley. But Chandra and Yamune were as adept as the laborers in that region. The track that leads up to Ubote winds through the cashew grove. When Chandra reached her, Yamune was squatting in the shade of a mango tree by the temple, chewing pan supari. What took you so long? Were you putting your husband to sleep too? She teased, spitting out a stream of beetle juice. You and your jokes. God knows when you stop pulling people's legs. Give me a piece of supari now. Yamune gave Chandra a wedge of beetle nut, and spitting out the dry mass that she had been chewing on, shoved a fresh piece into her mouth. During the last 8 days or so, they had gathered all the firewood they could find along the edge of the forest, and now they had entered the deep forest where the sun's rays didn't reach the ground and everything was cold and still. The two women soon drifted apart. Chandra could hear Yamune bustling about as she gathered bits of wood, but she couldn't find anything after her own heart. So she climbed deeper into the forest. She saw some good dry branches that filled her with joy. She was arranging the twigs she had picked in a tidy heap when suddenly she screamed, Yamune! And rushed down the slope, leaving the bundle of wood behind. What's the matter, Chandra? Yamune's ears had picked up the scream. Had a bee stung Chandra? Even as she got up, she saw Chandra rushing towards her out of breath, distraught. What happened? Why did you come running like this? What's wrong? Yamune searched her friend's eyes looking for an answer. There's a man up there. So? He's not wearing any clothes. Dark, with a tangled mass of hair on his head. He was staring at me. Chandra gasped it all out in one breath. Yamune's heart was filled with foreboding when she heard that the man wore no clothes. Let's go home. We'll come back for the wood tomorrow, she declared. The women run away from there and they meet Goyan Appa, who is pulling out the weeds there. Appa! Appo! Come here! Yamune called out from a distance. Quite taken aback by the women rushing towards him, Goyan Appa stared at their panic-stricken faces. What's wrong? What happened? Appo! Chandra saw a dark-skinned man up there on the summit. He was wearing no clothes at all. He saw Chandra and rushed towards her. Yamune blurted out before Chandra could open her mouth. Up there on the summit, a dark-skinned naked man. No, who knows what Chandra saw? My Santeri, I swear I saw him with my own eyes. He had a tangled mass of hair on his head. Chandra said earnestly, trying to convince Govinda. Let's go. Show me the place. We are not going there again. We are scared. Stay here then. I'll go up and take a look. Govinda put the sickle aside. No, don't go alone, Yamune said. He's big and strong. Chandra's words conjured up a picture that made Govinda feel it was imprudent to set off alone. Alright then, let's go down to the village and inform the others. Govinda quickly revised his plan and the three hastened towards the village. A small group of people gathered around them as Govinda burst out excited. A huge dark-skinned man pounced on Chandra up there on Ubote. Thank God Yamune was with her, or who knows. What? Someone pounced on Chandra? Everyone was amazed. They turned to stare at the woman. Her hair was disheveled, her clothes torn. And fear seemed to make her face wan and lifeless. The whole village gathered around Chandra. Her husband Satu was wild with rage when he heard the stranger had laid hands on his wife. He was furious with Chandra. Pushing his way through the throng, he slapped her soundly and she began to wail. Who told you to go so far away for firewood? Oh! And then the men gathered together, go into the forest. When they reached the foot of the hill, they broke up into small groups to fan out and circle the base of the hill in silence. In response to the leader's call, they would ascend the hill making a din so loud that it would awake all the creatures on the summit. Many of those in the group were experienced hunters. They knew how to incite wild animals, how to stop them, and once they had them in sight, how to move in for the kill. Soon the hills resounded with their war cry. Birds and animals scrambled about in terror as the man stalked up the slope. Halfway up, Pandor noticed some neatly stacked up twigs and branches just away from sight. So this is where he pounced on Chandra, Pandor said to himself, his eyes darting this way and that as he tried to grasp on his gun. As if he would still be sitting here, scoffed Vittal. Must have fled ages ago. Suddenly someone screamed, "Come here everyone, quick!" The shrill, high-pitched call was picked up by several others in the group. In a matter of moments, the whole forest echoed with their cries. Soon a large group had gathered together. "Look, up there! The dark-skinned fellow is sitting there!" Saguno pointed to the khazari tree. Each man's eyes rested on the hapless creature crouched high up on a branch. A bow was slung over his left shoulder and he clutched an arrow in his right hand. He trembled in fright as he gazed on the group of men standing below. "Hey, you, dark-skinned fellow, come down at once," Bomrao said in a raised voice. "He's got a bow and arrow. Has to be a monkey killer." Goyen stared at him closely and pronounced his opinion. Yes, a Vanarmaro." The others stared at the man and each one agreed. The Vanarmaro, who habitually hunted monkeys with arrows, was now a hunted animal himself. People stared up at him, anger and resentment, spitting out of their eyes like arrows. He began to tremble uncomfortably. So, there is this group of monkey killers who only thrive on killing of monkeys and eating their meat. And so this one had strayed away from the group and he is now caught by his children. The man trembled like a reed as he clutched the bow and arrow and slithered hastily to the ground. He stood there with his head bowed as the rangers jostled around him, delighted as if they had captured the very sky. She felt drained of all strength at this unjust accusation, but her fury knew no bounds. She was tempted to lash out at the frail bag of bones that was her husband, but she controlled herself with a great deal of effort. The dark-skinned Vanarmaro's image, as though carved out of black stone, appeared before her eyes again. Chandra shivered as a cool gust of wind entered the house. She sat up on her bed. The Vanarmaro must be shivering out there under the mango tree, she thought. She didn't waste any more time. Wrapping the blanket about herself, she unlatched the door, stepped out to the veranda outside. Her husband was curled up under his blanket, fast asleep. She barely glanced at him as she stepped down from the veranda and stood under the awning in the courtyard for quite some time. The crescent moon had climbed up above Ubote. In the faint light, she could see the thick mist swirling against the hills. She set off briskly, crossing the stream, but by the time she reached the temple, her steps had begun to falter. She stood by the mango tree gazing at the Vandar Maro, who huddled terrified at the sound of her footsteps. They stared at each other, the Vandar Maro looking in amazement at the woman standing there in the moonlight. Chandray stepped gently up to the mango tree, untied his hands and legs with a great deal of effort, and wrapped the blanket across his cold shoulders, her hands trembling all the while. The cold gust of wind touched her body, making her shiver uncontrollably. She clutched at the man's shoulder in an effort to control herself, and before she knew it, she was in his arms. Chandray clasped him tightly to her breast, their hearts pounding in tandem, his arms vice-like about her body. They stood there for a few moments, locked in a tight embrace, their bodies aroused, quite forgetting who they were. The dogs in both sections of the village were barking loudly as Chandray suddenly pulled back, filled with embarrassment. Get away now! They'll kill you if they find you here tomorrow. Go! Then Chandray stepped out of the shadow of the mango tree. She seemed like the beautiful fairy of his dreams. He moved towards her, but she quickly stepped away. The Vandar Maro stopped in his tracks. He gazed at her for a moment and extended his hand. No! Go now! Don't waste any more time. He didn't say a word. He stood there, tall and straight, like Hugotin, staring at her as though he wanted to carry her image in his eyes. Then he wrapped the blanket about himself and turned towards the fields in the distance. He stopped 2 or 3 times to turn back and look. Chandray stared after him without batting an eyelid till he vanished into the darkness. But tomorrow she decided as she returned home, tomorrow she'll worry about the angry villagers and her husband's ire.
Thank you very much. This is my short story. Actually, this short story has written back 2000, before 2000. I am born and brought up in a village called Dame, which is situated in the bank of river of Madai. It's northeast of Goa. Basically, this Vandar Maro, monkey killer, every year in the month of maybe January, they come and they stay for at least 1 month, and they kill monkey. Even maybe next month they will be coming. They stay for the 1 month and they kill monkey. They eat monkey. Actually, this is an incident took place long back, 15 years back. What happened in villages, they monkey killers, you might be knowing that they are tribal people, mostly they migrate or these are nomadic tribes. They come, they kill and eat the flesh. Sometimes they don't cook the fish, meat. They just raw meat they eat. And we have the villages have mentality that they are very low class people. They won't touch also. They wear the limited clothes. Even the women also. Women also drink liquor, and so we have that type of mentality with these people. And this incident took place in my village, nearby village. Once they hardly beaten up with one monkey killer, because there were no reasons. So this images of the monkey killer I had in my mind. And then I start, actually I was to write a short story about these monkey killers. And then I start watching them quietly, and I studied